If you haven't seen the Captain America Brave New World trailer yet, then what are you even doing with your life? Just kidding. But seriously, it's packed with so many cool, mind-blowing moments that we need to break them down like it's a high school pop quiz. There's more going on in this trailer than a Tony Stark party at Avengers Tower. So let's dive into the juicy details, comic references, and maybe some conspiracy theories. Don't tell me you don't love those. So the trailer starts with Isaiah Bradley in prison. And who is that? Please, well, look, I'm sure most of you have seen Falcon the Winter Soldier, but just in case you haven't, I'm going to give you a very brief TLDR on Isaiah Bradley's backstory in the comic books. Isaiah Bradley was one of the original people the military used as an experiment subject for the super soldier serum. Basically, the US military performed experiments on black soldiers against their will. This is all in the comic book Truth, Red, White, and Black, and it is an amazing comic book that I highly recommend. So, in the MCU, Isaiah Bradley was given a modified super soldier serum in the 1950s after Captain America went into the ice after a mission where he encountered the Winter Soldier. The government locked Bradley up in prison for years. Now Sam met him in the show where Isaiah told him
they will never let a black man be Captain America.
So after Sam did become Captain America, the two became friends in a really touching scene where Isaiah's contributions are recognized in the Smithsonian. But now we see him in prison just like in the comic books, where he was locked up later on in this trailer. We see him brainwashed and trying to assassinate the president. After Sam asked what Isaiah remembers, we see what triggered him. The flashes of the photographers are intercut with flashes of lights in an underground lab. Essentially, what I think is happening here is that the leader is manipulating events to destabilize the world. In the comics, the leader was an ordinary man named Samuel Stearns who was exposed to gamma radiation. But unlike Bruce Banner, who was a smart guy who became a strong, simple-minded brute, Samuel Stearns became a game of power-erd mega genius called the Leader. Now we met Samuel Stearns in The Incredible Hulk, and we got a tease that he would mutate into this villain. And now we're finally going to see that payoff. I should also point out that brainwashing with lights is something that Hydra did in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The device they used was called a Foos machine, named after Dr. Foos, who we met in the show Agent Carter. In the MCU, when Isaiah is arrested outside, it's very similar to how the previous Captain America Steve Rogers was arrested in Captain America Civil War. So when Sam visits him in prison, he calls him, and I like that little acknowledgement that Isaiah recognizes Sam as Captain America. It shows how far the two of them have come now. All through the trailer, we see these split screens, which were a very common device used by filmmakers in the 1970s. Most famously, of course, by the great Brian De Palma in films like Phantom of Paradise and Carrie. I should also note that the 2003 Hulk film by Ang Lee featured these innovative split screens to mimic comic panels, so that Hulk aesthetic is very similar to the split screen in the Situation Room where these people blink out a frame to show the passage of time. We see secret labs, juxtaposed with public places and events, and then we see Shira's character, who is playing an Israeli secret agent named Sabra. Now in the comics, Sabra is the first Israeli superhero in Marvel Comics, but rumor has it the movie has toned down her nationality because of the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Ross says,
I was a wartime general.
So here I think he's talking about Iraq and Afghanistan. He's standing at a grave site, which is where we see a state funeral later in the trailer. So I'm going to throw out a wild guess here and say that this is his vice president. If the leader's intention is to destabilize the United States, well, then you could eliminate the vice president and then turn the president into a rampaging rage monster. And then we get glimpses of this new war that Ross is talking about. So you guys remember, this is TM at the Celestial. So in the movie The Eternals, we find out that Earth is actually an incubator for a giant cosmic god called a Celestial. That Celestial baby named Tiamut is about to hatch. But then CI turned the Celestial into some kind of new mineral. Now, the rumor has been that this mineral is actually the SE version of adamantium, the same metal, of course, that laces Wolverine's skeleton. So, of course, every country in the world would want to claim this giant natural resource of the world's most powerful metal. However, because the statue is in the middle of the ocean, different rural governments are able to lay claim to it. So it looks like this situation is going to erupt into war in this movie, and Samuel Stearns is going to be the one to pick up the pieces and reorganize the world into some kind of brave new world. Stearns even hinted that he wanted to remake the world using gamma technology even before he mutated, just as he appears to be entering a panic room. So what we're seeing here is that the leader has managed to infiltrate the Oval Office, probably by brainwashing people who are in the president's inner circle with the same technique that he used on Isaiah Bradley. And one of these people, who is close to Ross, probably injected him with modified gamma blood to turn him into the Red Hulk. And remember, he was only able to create the abomination by using Bruce's original pure gamma irradiation irradiated blood. Remember, his blood has now become infected with gamma radiation, so he could be replicating his own blood to infect Ross, to SE Chaos. And then we have some incredible action shots. We see Sam sending out 2 drones. Now, this is the same fight that we saw in previous trailers, where he fights Red Hulk and Sidewinder. Moral Sidewinder in a second. So here we see these 2 drones. Now, you'll remember that originally one of his drones was called Red Wing. Captain America Civil War.
Thanks, Sam.
Don't thank me.
I'm not thinking that thing.
His name is Red Wing.
And Red Wing, of course, was based on Falcon's actual literal Falcon that Sam Wilson had a telepathic link with in the comics. Now, if you guys have any guesses about what he would have named these new drones, let me know down in the comments below. And then we get these incredible shots of Sam flying at supersonic speed. Now notice how his new suit has a helmet, which makes total sense because otherwise his skin would be peeling back from his face at supersonic speed. And look at the shot where he's landing. They frame it to look like a smart bomb camera, and then he does a quasi-superhero landing. And I personally think this is early in the film notice. He's still wearing his white suit from the end of Falcon the Winter Soldier that he seems to replace later in the movie. And then we get our first glimpse of the new Falcon Ween Torres, who we did meet in Falcon the Winter Soldier in the comics. He also took over the Falcon mantle when Sam moved up to become Captain America. So I love this split screen of Sam and Ross, showing them on different sides in the first trailer. Ross tries to recruit Sam,
but I want to make another run at making Captain America an official military position.
And if we disagree on how to manage this situation, then what happens?
My guess is Sam refuses and then goes off the grid, which is why he is arrested later in the trailer. But more importantly, Ross and Sam have both had their own struggles with their own identity. Sam spent 6 episodes grappling with the idea of a black man becoming Captain America. The legacy of that shield is complicated, while Ross was always torn between, being a father and a soldier dad. And now he's being torn between being president and being Red Hulk. Here we see a shot of Wen juxtaposed with a scary chair in a dingy lab. This is probably where Isaiah and the others are brainwashed. This is the same lab where Sam and the others are arrested outside. So this is very interesting. It makes me think maybe this isn't just Samuel Stern's lab. This could be a government conspiracy. Samuel Stern's, like Hydra, could have been running his own sub-government agency with the intention of turning the president into the Hulk and seizing control of the nation in order to create his brave new world exactly. And check out this missile. It looks like it's running on Tony Stark's repulsor technology. Maybe other nations around the world have gained access to Tony Stark's tech, or this could be an American missile. After the government seized Stark tech in the movie Spider-Man No Way Home. Either way, it detonates before hitting the ship, and then we see a shot of Sam falling. So maybe he used his vibranium suit to shield the ship from this blast. This whole third act of the movie could show Sam trying to avert World War I. Now later, we see him use the shield to detonate missiles, and then to protect his face as he flies forward. Remember, his wings and suit came from Wakanda, so they're probably made of vibranium, so they could withstand this kind of explosion. Now here is another shot of the leader lab with his crazy villain newspaper clipping, reading Reset Ross, Reset America Again. I think his goal is to show the world that the president has become a freaky gamma monster, so he can destabilize the nation. Like guys, I am so pumped for this villain. He's one of like the top tier villains from the comics, and I love how they are, reinventing him as the 70s conspiracy thriller mastermind. Now this is interesting. These status boards behind Ross read Cap status, which would imply that Sam is indeed working for the government. It's pretty cool that they not only recruited Sam Wilson, but they had enough time to mock up a cool board. Like this. Ross says,
Variable out there that I can't control.
Now here, I'm not sure if he's talking about Sam or himself. How can he trust himself to not turn into the Hulk again? And then we get 3 quick action shots here. Sabra Sam throwing the shield, and then more shots of Sam flying around Tiamut. And then we got a really good look at Giancarlo Esposito's character at the villain Sidewinder. So in the comics, he's the leader of the Serpent Society, a snake-themed terrorist group that Steve Rogers fights over the years. And did you guys catch this? President Ross himself punches one of his would-be assassins, reminiscent to the last time Harrison Ford played a president and punched Gary Oldman in the face.
Get off my plane.
Now notice that when Raj transforms at this press conference that his hand burns the carpet. This is because as the Red Hulk gets angrier, he also gets hotter. Red Hulk smashes through the White House, and I wonder if the film is actually going to address the irony here that Ross hunted Banner and insisted that Banner should have been a weapon to be used by the United States government. So does that now mean that Ross has to submit himself to being a living weapon when he fights Sam? He does a barrel roll to slice this car in half, and you gotta love that Wandan tech. I am wondering where Wakanda is in all of this now. We know that the previous administration wanted to undermine Wakanda and create regime change. So at the end of this movie, I think that Sam is going to realize that the world governments can't be trusted to protect the Earth, and that he will need to form a new team of Avengers. And this will be the core team team that faces Doctor Doom in Avengers Doomsday. So let me know who you think the next 6 core Avengers should be. Alright, that's it for today's breakdown. I hope you enjoyed diving into the details with me. If you have any thoughts or theories, drop them in the comments below. And as always, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos. See you next time.